Good afternoon, everyone. Chris Durrell here with Dane and I. We are talking some Pocono DFS NASCAR today. That's right. We have a doubleheader. They started this last year where they have one race on Saturday. Then what's going to happen is they'll take the top 20 finishers and they will invert that on Sunday. So we got doubleheader action for the NASCAR Cup Series, 4 races in total. So very excited. We're going to talk about a bunch of things for DraftKings, FanDuel, PrizePicks, possibly some bets, our overall strategies. But the most important thing of the day, Dane, how's it going?
Going good. Soccer second lineups just came out. It's been a fun one so far. But yeah, ready for some NASCAR. I know I didn't watch any of the truck race. Did you?
I wasn't able to. I've just been so busy. That one I had to push down at the bottom this week just because of the 2 NASCAR or the 2 Cup races. So that's kind of the way I'm concentrated on the Cup races mostly, and with baseball and League of Legends and all the other 7 to 10 sheets that we do, it just kind of fell to the bottom this week. So unfortunately, no trucks, but ready to fire up the Cup here.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, so the first race is the CBD. What do we got here? The Pocono Organic CBD 325. So I've got a bunch of information here. Going to share the screen fairly soon. We're going to look at a couple of different angles, strategies. I guess that's usually a good place to start. Pocono is they call it the tricky triangle. It's only got 3 turns. They're all different, and they're all, when they put Pocono together, they drew up different corners or different turns that they like from different tracks in NASCAR. So that is the biggest challenge for teams and drivers, is getting a car set up that maybe it's not going to work well in all 3 turns, obviously, like really, really good. And if you can do that, I mean, you're probably going to win the race. But if you could be really good in 2 of those corners and average in the 3rd, I think that's the way a lot of crew chiefs will look at it. What are your overall thoughts on Pocono, compared to other tracks?
Yeah, it's definitely a different one. And we did see last year the kind of shorter race with the 2-day, the invert on the second day, which is a little annoying, but oh well. Yeah. But yeah, we've seen it last year, so we do have a little bit of data from that to look at to see how teams improve from one day to the next. I guess that would really be more for tomorrow. But I think as far as a strategy perspective, it's going to be 1 to 2 dominators with a little bit of a shorter race as far as the amount of laps. So that's kind of what I'm looking at for today.
Yeah, same here. I mean, the pricing right off the bat, we've got Larson at 12.5. That makes sense. He has been absolutely on fire, and he's starting from the pole again today. So he's probably got the best chance. If there's anyone that can lead, one thing I wanted to show here was the Pocono last couple of races and a couple things that stood out to me. First of all, in the second race last year, we had a ton of place differential. That's just simply because we obviously inverted. The fastest cars started 15th and back. The top 5 cars started 15th or 16th to 20th in there. So we did see a little bit different strategy in that second race. But going and looking at that first race, Hamlin won from 3rd. Almirola was 1st. Almirola started from the pole and was able to hold on for 61 laps. He wasn't the best. He was very good here. And if I bring up I actually built a banner here. I'm just going to bring up across the bottom. There were 4 drivers who finished top 10 in both those races. Last year was Hamlin and Harvick, who just swapped for 2nd. Almirola, 3rd and 5th, so he was top 5 in both. And then Truex was 10th and 6th. So Almirola was very good, but he was able to keep the lead right off the bat. So I can see that happening with Larson. So I've got Larson plugged in right now for 80 laps led. That's kind of the way I am looking at it right now. That's a floor. I think if there's anyone that can lead 100 plus, it's him. It's only happened once in the last 12 Pocono races, so I'm not totally expecting it to happen today. But if anyone can do it, it's him. So he's really my number 1 dominator. As for that second dominator, I'd probably look for like 20 laps, 20 to maybe 30 tops from another driver, maybe 2, depending on how many you think Larson gets. And that would be Hamlin. I think he can get up there. And Harvick. Those guys have obviously been really good at Pocono. Harvick would be like a GPP dominator there, but Hamlin's probably my favorite driver here today, under 10K, and he's been just dominant at this track. And if we just look at, I know he hasn't won this year, and that's like the big narrative, but if we go look at his stats throughout the whole entire season, he has been amazing. There's only, what have we got? 4 drivers that have at least 12 top 10s. He's one of them, along with William Byron, Kevin Harvick, and Kyle Larson. So it's funny. Harvick and Hamilton have been super consistent, but they haven't been able to get in a win yet of all these top price guys. But Hamilton's got 9 top 5s in there as well. That leads everyone not named Kyle Larson. So Hamlin under 10K, starting 10th with his track history, current form, season form, is definitely number one for me in that top tier because of the price. And I kind of got Larson as a GPP play for me because he really does need to dominate to hit that, GPP winning upside that you're going to need. And with that in mind, before I send it over to you, that's one thing I wanted to bring up. I did bring up the perfect lineups from last year. And so I've got that up on one screen. So over here, I've got my sheet from last year's race with finishing position right here in this column C. So the perfect lineup last year was Christopher Bell. He was the most expensive, but he started 36. So there's your place differential. Then we had Chris Buescher at 6,500. We scroll down here. He started 24th, place differential. Eric Almirola on the pole. He was only 7,300, but he was on the pole, led those 61 laps, ended up with 67 DK points. We had Hamlin at 8,800. So he was underpriced here last year by a ton as well. He started third. He was able to get that with the win. Kevin Harvick and Michael McDowell at 5,500. What's similar, they all finished top 10. All 6 drivers finished top 10 in this race. So it's a little bit of place differential mixed with these guys that finished top 10 and these value plays. So overall, that was about 366 DK points. And oddly enough, the second race, which was the invert, you'd think the scoring would be different, was 365.5, 0.5 points different. That is about 7.2, 7.3x to win a tournament is what I'm looking at today. To get in the money, I think you're looking at about 6x. So that's kind of the way I'm calculating when I go and look at the DK matrix today. So how are you breaking down the top tier?
Yeah, so the top tier is a little different for me. I don't know that I can go away from Larson at this point. I'm just going to wait until he beats me. Maybe that's the wrong approach right now. Maybe it's time to take a stand on him and go a different direction. And maybe that would win you a tournament because I just still do expect him to be popular, but it's going to be tough for me to go away from him. They've not got him priced up high enough, I don't think, for the way that he's been running. The interesting part behind him is those place differential guys, Blaney and Chase Elliott. I think there is some value. You can play one of them with Larson. It's not easy to do, but I think it's doable. I really wasn't on Hamlin, but that's an interesting piece there. I mean, he's been really good here, and he's sub 10K, so I see exactly why you're on him. But those would be the top 3 for me at in that top range would be Larson, Chase, and Blaney. If I had to pick a preference between Chase and Blaney with that place differential, I think it would be Chase, but it's very close. Blaney has ran pretty well here. I was thinking he had ran up front in some of these races and just had something go wrong, but maybe I'm wrong on that. But he's 10-2. They did price him up a little bit. Starting 27th, I still think he has top 5 upside. So all 3 are great plays up top.
For sure. For me, it came down to, again, the matrix and the math. I just was looking at Elliott. If he wins, he gets 73 points. For Larson to match that, he could lead 80 laps, 25 fast laps. So that's on the high end of his dominator potential, in my opinion. So that's pretty much the same. So there's a lot more risk in Larson getting to the same upside as Elliott because of that $1,500 price difference and because of the place differential. If Elliott was to somehow find his way to the front, I think he can lead some laps as well. I just think his upside is much greater. If he only leads, let's just say 15 laps at the end of the race, he's going to get fast laps in there coming through the field, I think, anyway. His upside is just slightly more than Larson, and Larson needs everything to go right, which it has, don't get me wrong. But we just don't see we've had a lot of good drivers come into this track and only lead 60 laps, 60, 70 laps at the most for their dominator. So I just think it's a little more risky this week because of the price change that they've given him, $1,500 more than the next driver, especially when those next tier drivers from Blaney at 10-2 to Elliott at 11 are starting 27th, 15th, and 29th. And all of them, going back to the start of the sheet here, have arguably had better track history. Maybe not Blaney. He hasn't had he's only had one top 10 in his last 5 races here, but Truex and Elliott have had top 5 upside almost every time, especially in terms of like running order. I know Larson's been there as well, and a lot of these tracks, Larson maybe didn't have the greatest. He's in a different car now. We know that. So I'm not fading Larson by any means. My favorite would be Elliott over Larson just because of that points per dollar floor and upside. There's a lot less that needs to go right, in my opinion, for Elliott than Larson being able to lead all those laps. But I agree with you on Blaney. That's nice place differential. Truex would be my number 2. I've got it ranked Elliott, Truex, and then Hamlin in my top tier. If Hamlin was starting top 5, I'd probably start considering it more of a GPP play, but that sub 10K start in 10th at a track he's dominated, and he's been a top 10 machine this season. I hope he gets overlooked a little bit because he hasn't won. Kind of the same story with Harvick here as well. Starting third, that's going to add a lot more risk here. So he's 9,300. To get 5X, he needs 46.5. Well, that's a win. So if he doesn't get any dominator points, it's going to be tough for him to be in the winning lineup, is the way I'm looking at Harvick today. So he would be a bit more of a GPP play off Hamlin, because Hamlin at 97, if I look at that, we need about 48.5, and that is a third place finish. So Hamlin with no dominator points can hit 5X at third place. If he gets any dominator points whatsoever, he's got 6, 7X upside. So that's why I'm looking at the top tier. We had Liz asking here. We'll just jump down because we're probably going to be playing some stars and scrubs today, just the way this place differential is set up. Would you agree there?
Yeah, completely agree.
She was asking about Eric Jones, and I'm with her on Eric Jones here at 6,400. He only needs 32 points to hit that 5X, and that puts him at like a 17th place finish with no dominator points, and that gives him upside as well. I think he could get up to 15th, which gets him at 35. He can get close to 6X. I think if things go completely right, he can hit 7X, and he doesn't even need a top 10 finish. So I like Jones here too. Yourself?
Yep, love him. 6,400 is pretty cheap, but I know he's in different equipment, but he's been top 5 in 4 of the last 5 races here. So be kind of tough not to be on him. I know he's in worse equipment, but he's much lower price too. So
yeah, exactly.
Give us some place differential. If he can push a top 15, I mean, that would be spectacular. So yeah, exactly. I'm on Eric Jones for sure.
When you can get 7X out of a guy and not need a 10th place finish for someone that's got top 5s in, 4 of his last 5, and the other one was a crash, the first race here last year, I think that's spectacular. And I think he's going to be high owned too. And the other guy that I think is going to be chalky at way cheaper, I can't believe he came in this cheap this week, was Ryan Newman at 5,800. He's finished ahead of his starting position in 9 of his last 10 races here, with the top 10 and what do we got? 4, 6, 7 top 15 finishes. So Newman, looking at the matrix here, needs 6X for 35 points. That is a 14th place finish. So that's kind of where I've got him. My model tells me he's going to finish is kind of like that 13th to 16th. So I mean, that's 5 to 6X right there with 7, 8X upside. So your thoughts on Newman there too? He's going to be super chalky again.
Yeah, I expect him to be chalk, but it's tough not to play him. If I'm remembering last week, I think he was in the winning lineup. I'm not 100% sure, but he just kind of did enough to get you. I think he was top 15 or something. That done plenty at where he was starting and priced, and now he's 5,800. Starting 19th, I think he can give us another top 15, and that's the reason that he's going to be chalk. So yeah, he's one of the best plays really on the slate from a point per dollar perspective that allows you to get in. That's what I was saying earlier, get in a couple of those top guys. There's some interesting plays down here with him as well. I just kind of wanted to get your thoughts on like Cole Custer and even Bubba Wallace look like decent plays to me. Down here in this range. Bubba's 6,100, Custer 63, starting 26th and 20th. I think both are decent plays. I probably like Custer a little bit more than Bubba, but where are you at on those?
I like Custer. He's definitely a core play for me here. Starting 26th last year, same equipment, finished 16th, 17th. He's starting 26th, so let's go just kind of 16, 17 gives him 35 to 37 points. So that's 6X right there. And I think he can possibly do better, coming back in the same equipment, back to the same track for the third time here. He's got 7-8x upside again. So absolutely love the stars and scrubs today. It's really, really, I don't even want to call these guys scrubs. Ryan Newman, Cole Custer, these aren't scrubs, but just kind of the development of the lineup. Like if you go with 3 cheap guys, you can go with 3 very expensive guys. You don't got to worry about Larson's price, I don't think. I'm going to plug that in here shortly and kind of give you guys a direction of that. But so yeah, Custer would be my favorite there. I'm wondering what you think about Briscoe. He's more expensive than Custer, almost it's $600 more, but he only needs about 35 points for 5x, and for him, that's only an 18th place finish. I like that as well. They're kind of in the same group for me, even though the difference in price.
Yeah, if I land in that range, it would be one of 2 guys, him or Matty D. Both kind of right in that same price range. Right below them, Chastain, Stenhouse, and Suarez are all, well, maybe Stenhouse and Chastain are almost out of the equation just with where they're starting. It's going to be tough for them to get there. So yeah, Briscoe is one of my favorites in that range with Matty D. Honestly, I might lean Matty D a little bit more at 7,100.
Okay, I'm just looking for confirmation here, but it looks like Custer's going to the back. So honestly, him starting 26th already, going back to how many we got, 38 in this race, going back 12 spots. I don't, looking at the guys that are starting, towards the back, I think he can get by easily those guys, pretty darn fast, and get back to that same starting position and still have the same, even though it is a little bit of a shorter race. Again, Custer only needs, to hit that 5x 31.5 points, which puts him back like a 19th place finish. I still think he's 13th to 16th. He can definitely put that up today. So that, I hope that lowers his ownership, to be honest. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, he is going to the rear. I just found it. I hadn't seen it yet, but Bob tweeted about an hour ago. I hadn't seen it, but yeah, it really doesn't change anything for me. You're playing him as a cheap guy for place differential. So you're not really worried about him being up there in the beginning. You're just worried about where he is at the end. Unlike like last week, we talked about it, Byron, him going to the rear, that took us completely off of him because he needed to dominate to get there. And he had to come through the entire field to get near the front. So that kind of took us off him. But starting 26, 12 spots back or whatever, and a full race to get to where we need him to go in the top 20, more than capable of doing that.
Yep. So kind of in that range, we have, just to kind of sum up this value range here real quick, the guys that I like, we didn't talk about him yet, but I do like Matty D. He needs about 35 points or a 15th place finish to kind of hit that 5x threshold. So I think he's got upside greater than that, obviously, as well. He got better here last year. Back in 2019, he finished 17th in both races. Came here the first race last year of the doubleheader, finished 13th. Flip that around, so 13th, he would have started, more ahead in the field, and he still finished 6th. He was able to keep that track position all day and stay up there. So that 21st, I think that gives him kind of in that 6 to 8x upside in there as well. So when we have all these value guys that give us that much upside, we maybe don't need 7x out of Kyle Larson or Truex or Elliott. So get in that. I think we could maybe today, because of the way this is set up, we maybe hit 380 as a GPP winning lineup. Just because it seems the way it's set up. So the guys that I like kind of in that 7,100 and below range would be DeBenedetto, Briscoe, Eric Jones, Cole Custer, and Ryan Newman. I don't mind Justin Haley here as well. I just think there's a lot of risk with him, but starting 34th is excellent. That puts him at we'll take a 30 points from him to get that 5x. That's only a 23rd. So I think that's definitely doable. I don't see much more upside. I don't really see a top 20 out of him. Unless things go absolutely perfect, and then it's going to be chaos anyway. So he's kind of a little bit off my radar because I just mentioned 5 guys that I really like down here, that if you pick 2 or 3 of them, you should have no problem picking your favorites up top.
Yeah, and you can't forget about our boy Alfredo down there. 5,400 is just super cheap. Yeah, fast pasta. Got to get some of that on a Saturday evening. But I just don't know. I mean, he kind of fits that bill too. And they've been running better, to be honest. They've been early in the year when we were playing them. It was kind of more of He was cheap and could finish where he was starting, but they've kind of been running a little better the last few weeks. So I think he's definitely in play he could be a pivot off of Newman. And I mean, I don't know, you could potentially play them together if you really wanted to get crazy with it.
Mm-hmm. So I just went and put here on the screen. I'm going to maybe zoom it in once more. The three of the value guys that we talked about. So Custer, Jones, and Newman, I put in there. 19th, 22nd, 26th starting positions. That leaves us an average of 10-5. So you throw Larson in there, it leaves you 95. Getting Larson is not going to be hard. So I agree with you that he is going to be chalk still. Fading him be a nice GPP strategy. I think I'm probably myself going to play 3 max, and in 2 of them, I'm probably going to fade Larson, to be honest with you, just to go away from that high ownership. I think he is higher owned, and I even say that with Elliott. So I think you could fade both of them. If you really want to go off the board, you fade those top 2 guys, and you go with like Truex, Hamlin. I think that's an excellent start. If you went with Truex and Hamlin, you can still go Elliott. You can honestly go. There's a lineup right there: Elliott, Truex, Hamlin. Newman, Jones, and Custer. Like, it's so easy to build a lineup today with 5 guys down here. So 20 max might be the way to go if you're using a NASCAR optimizer out there, and you just build your player pool and you pick those 5 value guys, and let's say 5 to 8 guys from the mid 8Ks and up. You can easily roll out 20 lineups and have them very similar. So very easy to build lineups today if you're multi-entering.
Yeah, and I still think there are some plays in the mid-range, because kind of looking still at how you're building right there. If you go back and plug in those 3, I think an interesting way to go, whatever 3 value guys you had.
Newman, Jones, and Custer, I was just playing around with.
And throw Larson in there.
Okay.
So then the mid-range, you can kind of take 1 from there, I think, and then get back up to that's why I was saying it's not hard to get Blaney or Chase in there, because that leaves you 8,000. So then you're in that range of Busher, Reddick, Austin Dillon. I think all those are fine plays. I think Reddick and Austin Dillon will come in a little bit lower owned. I know Reddick wasn't good here last year, but that team has just seemed to turn the corner a little bit with these Hendrick cars, and the Chevrolet camp looks a little bit better overall. So I think they could be fine plays to mix and match in GPPs, because if some of those value guys don't get there, if something happens to a few of them or a couple of them or anything, those guys will become a little bit more optimal if they finish 10th, as opposed to some of those guys down there.
Yes. Yep, for sure.
You could go Bowman as well. I think he's the other option in the mid-range that I would look at. Starting 13th, 8,600 is a good price. So I like Bowman there as well.
Something else with this build, just by going with the 3 value plays, being able to pretty much plug in anyone you want after, you can go Elliott and Larson. So I think leaving money on the table at this point is a way to maybe get off that that chalk. To Benedetto in there, down to Briscoe. But then, where was I going with this? I just got to find him here. I think this really lowers the ownership of Kevin Harvick today. I think Harvick, because of the way these builds are, that people are automatically going to go with the values and then the Larsons and an Elliott or Truex. I think these guys down here, like Kyle Busch, Kevin Harvick, maybe even Denny Hamlin, becomes lower owned. These mid-tier guys, I think you can definitely go that. So there's a lot of ways to build today, but I think the chalk definitely is going to be Larson and Elliott with value guys. But there definitely is ways if you want to, not, split with 365 of your favorite, your closest friends on DraftKings. There's definitely some ways to go and diversify there. Chris Davis asks, he's fully fading Larson today and starting his builds with Elliott, Hamlin. Would there be any other recommended starting point other than those 2? Myself, if I'm fading Larson, I love the Elliott Hamlin start. I would maybe, if you're doing more than one lineup, I would probably mix in 2 or even all 3 of Blaney and Hamlin in there as well. Those 4, fit in 3 of those 4. You can probably fit all 4 of them in there if you're fading Larson. So I definitely don't mind that. And then Liz asks, do you guys see teams pairing up today? A little bit. I do see that happening a little bit, maybe mostly off the restart sort of thing. Once they get into green flag runs, I don't think we're going to see it as much. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think you could see it, but it's nothing that I'm kind of building around, I would
Right.
think.
Okay.
So my side of the Larson deal, I understand. I see the reason for fading him. If we think he's going to be pretty owned, that's definitely good enough reason at a shorter race. I mean, there's definitely good reasons, but if you're 20 maxing, and you're doing the 3 max, which is a little different. But if you're going to do 20 max, you can literally just lock in Kyle Larson. I think you got to make a decision on him. I think you either play him 100% or fade him 100%. I like taking that approach sometimes. So if you lock him in, you're going to be over the field. You're going to be double the field on him.
Right.
So you
That makes
still have
sense.
plenty of leverage there. And that's kind of what I'm leaning. I mean, the
I like that.
builds lend yourself to just jamming him in. I know there's going to be people out there that talk themselves off of him enough and the fade enough that it might lower him down into the 40s or 30s percent on. And if he gets down there and you're 100% on in your 20 lineups, you have some leverage on the field still.
I love that point. Yes. So there's two decisions. If you fully fade him, I would say fully fade him. So you kind of got me in a bind now because I was going to kind of do some with and some not in my 3 max. Now I'm considering either, like you said, 20. That's a little bit different in 3 max versus 20 max. But I
Yeah.
100% agree with you that if you like Larson, instead of trying to make that decision, go 100% on him. Because if he's 60%, you're still 40% over the field. If he's, like you said, lowers to 40, you're now 60% over the field. If he happens to hit that 7x, 7x, you've got now 20 lineups to get it right with Larson because he's going to be in the winning lineup. So if he ends up in the winning lineup, you've got 20 chances, whereas others are going to have 8 to 10 chances.
Right.
So that makes total sense. I 100% agree with you there. Now, the next question here was JJ777. He says lots of value, but with the race data, I think it changes because the race being shorter. I That's why I was looking at last year's Pocono race because it was the same length of race. The very first race was a 325, so exactly the same setup as last year. And we did see place differential in the winning lineups and scattered throughout all lineups that cashed pretty much. There just was so much of it. Like if I go back and look at last year's sheet here, and go to the cheat sheet side. Bell was in the winning lineup. Boyer wasn't. Where were we? We had all these cheap guys that were there. Eric Jones, Michael McDowell was up there. He finished top 10. So there was a lot of place differential, even with a shorter race. I think the shorter race just takes away mostly, some dominator points, obviously. But my pick to win, that's a tough one. I'm not going Larson today as my pick to win. And I'm betting on it, and just simply because he's driving the prices of everyone else, giving you nice values on everyone else while he's on an awesome winning streak. So I'll keep betting not Kyle Larson, who's like 2-1, I believe today. I don't have my betting site open, but I'm never gonna bet a NASCAR driver 2-1 when we've got 160 laps of 40 cars going around a track, 38 cars today, 39 or whatever. But still, I'm never going to bet a guy at 2-1. I barely bet baseball, like a 2-1, something like that. So we don't see those odds for baseball, obviously, because there's only 2 teams versus 38. But still, for a betting perspective, I like Hamlin. I also like maybe Truex. I believe you can still get him in double-digit odds here as well. So I like those 2 Toyotas. And then I guess for a third, I guess you could probably go Harvick. We're still getting some good numbers on him. And like I said, he's been absolutely incredible here. So it's kind of hard not to. I know he's not having the same season as he was last year, but he finished first, second in both those races last year along with Hamlin. And both those guys you can get like 8 to 12 to 1, depending on what site you're on. So that's kind of my look at picking a winner. And I do think those guys have an excellent shot at getting a win here.
Yeah, so there was one guy that I didn't mention. I think he's in the 9K range. Brad Keselowski, I think he would be a good bet to win at 14-1. He's ran good with his package from a speed perspective. And he's starting 18th for DraftKings, which is good, 9,500, and he's 14-1 betting. I think that they like to play some strategy sometimes with that team. So if he hits it, I think that would be a nice bet at 14-1. And I think he is a good play at 9,500 on DraftKings too, because I don't see him getting overly popular with Chase, Blaney, and Larson all up there. And there's other guys that are going to pull ownership as well. So I don't think he's going to get anything crazy as far as ownership either.
That's a great call. I think he's going to be lower owned because he doesn't have, he's in the same price range pretty much as Elliott down to Hamlin. He doesn't have as good of place differential upside as Elliott or Blaney. He maybe doesn't have, what's his track history like here? 11th, 9th, 8th, 7th. So he's not as good as Hamlin in terms of track history. So I think Hamlin's higher owned than him. I think Truex is higher owned than him. So I definitely like that call. If he's outside the top 5 in ownership, he doesn't need dominator points, and he can damn near hit 7x with a win. He's hitting 5x just with a 7th place finish, hitting 5x with a 7th place finish out of a championship type driver that has been, better than that at this track. As you can tell, over, he's been a lot better 5-6 years ago. But if he's going to be lower owned starting 18th with place differential, and he doesn't need dominator points to hit that 7x upside, I think he's a great GPP play. If you're for the full fade Larson, you could just stack up with a very balanced lineup here. If something happens to Larson, you're way ahead of 40-50% of the field. So I do see both sides of it, and it's going to be very tough for me in the 3 max what I'm going to do. But I'm with you on making a stand in 20 max, and not if you do half with Larson and half without. You're probably going to end up either breaking even at the end of the day, or a very small profit, or a very small loss, most likely. And for me, when I'm playing GPP, it's either I want to win and come out like 5, 6, 7x ahead on what I've invested, or I want, I'd rather just lose it all than break even. I want to have that shot to win, and you don't really give yourself that full shot to capitalize on the most upside value for what you're entering into your DraftKings lineups by, getting either splitting a driver that you don't really can't make a decision on, or just spreading out and having your player pool in a 20 max with like almost every driver in the field. That's just not going to work. You really have to make a stand and build cores and build multiple lineups around those cores, so that when your core hits, that you're going to have a great chance of hitting that upside and winning the GPP.
Yep, completely agree there.
Awesome. Couple more things here. I just wanted to go over PrizePicks, or actually before I do PrizePicks, I wanted to look at the FanDuel build. If you throw Larson in, that gives you an 88.75 average. So it might be a little bit tougher, but we still got DeBenedetto in there. We still got Jones. We can come down here. The thing that differs with FanDuel is you can't really go the multiple value play route, because place differential is worth less, not worthless, worth less. There's a space in there. So I usually only try and take one guy, and he pretty much needs to finish top 10. I think it's possible with Jones. It's probably more possible, in my opinion, with Buescher at 7K. If you want to go real cheap, Almirola has been solid here. He even showed last year, starting inside the top 10 in the second race, that he was able to hold that track position to be solid here. He's starting to come on now as well, so I think he's a fine play, 6,500. Now that puts you up in the 9,600 range. You can start looking at guys like, you could throw in a DeBenedetto, who I think has top 10 upside as well. And then you're getting up here into the Blaney. You can get him, Blaney and Keselowski. You can kind of go that route. So Larson's still possible. I think it's still a little bit tougher, but the price is a lot closer. Hamlin is only 1,000 more, so you can go and plug Hamlin in if you don't want to go that route. But I think all of these guys have top 10. So just a little bit different builds with FanDuel versus DraftKings. So keep that in mind, that you don't want to be going 2 or 3 punt plays on DraftKings, because you really do need all of them to finish top 10, and like 3 of your 5 drivers to finish top 5 pretty much, with 1 winning. So a little bit different setup there on FanDuel. And then over on PrizePicks, we talk about it all the time. With it, you're just pretty much, it says fantasy score, but with that fantasy score, all you're looking to do, it's over under on finish position. So if we go look at that, I've got that on the sheet. That's last year's. I'm going to get rid of some of these tabs now that we're wrapping up. I have a PrizePicks scoring tab, and it shows you points, for PrizePicks and what they need for finish position. So, for instance, a couple that I like right off the bat, I do like Truex at 32.5. I think that is a great number on him. So he needs to hit the over an 8th or better. I think that's completely possible for Truex today. I like that number on him. Brad Keselowski stands out at 32 as well. Blaney's up there. I think the other two are a little bit safer there, but I do like Blaney. Almirola 28.5 is interesting. That makes him needing a 12th or better. So that's kind of finishing where he's at. So I'm definitely on board with that. Newman 22.5. That's an 18th or better. That's getting to the point where I'd almost consider Ryan Newman here as an over 2, 18th or better. If we go look at Newman track history here one more time, 18th or better. He's done that in 9 of his last 10 races. So there's a pretty good chance he's going to do that again. So I like that. Those would be my favorite plays on PrizePicks. And again, I play PrizePicks. I will take my 2 favorites, and I will play them as a 2-play power play, which is 3x your money if you win. I will then go, and depending on the slate, I like 4 drivers here. I'll usually go, let's say $25 on a 2-play power play. I will then go say 10 or $15 on a 3-play power play. And then I'll go like $5 or $10 on a 4-play, but I'll make it a flex play. So I only got to get 3 or 4 right there. And if I do really good, you're hitting like 6, 7x on your money in the slate, but you still have a chance to break even just with that 4-play flex as well. So absolutely loving the PrizePicks, and it's just so much simpler. If you're a person that maybe doesn't have an hour or 2 hours to really go in and multi-enter 20, 50, 150 lineups, and you're just, DraftKings FanDuel today, I'm single entry and 3 max, and then I'm going to do, like I said, with PrizePicks right now. So if you got any questions on that, fire off your questions in chat. We're going to be in RotoPros chat here. We're going to be in the Slack chat for Patreon. We're also going to be in the new Discord for Patreon, and myself, I'll be in the DFSR chat leading up to lock as well. And then a reminder that tomorrow I'm going to be having a live show as well. I forget what the lock is for tomorrow's race. I think it might be mid-afternoon. I'm not 100%, but I'll get back to you guys in chat when we'll do the live show and see if Dane can join us, see if it's just going to be me or both of us. Either way, there will be a live show tomorrow. So stay tuned for that. I will have a
3:47 tomorrow instead of 3:17.
Okay, might be able to do right around the same time possibly here. If that works for you, Dane. If not, it'll just be me. But either way, there will be a live show right around the same time as we did today. And I will have the link posted for that later this afternoon. You can come in and reserve it or bookmark it or whatever, so that you're all there and ready. So appreciate y'all coming. Do you have any last words, Dane?
I think that's it. We got about 40 minutes till lock. Or am I bad at math? Yeah, 40 minutes till lock.
Yeah.
So a little bit less time than usual when we get done with the shows, but good luck to everybody. I think we're set up for a good day today.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, everyone, again. And JJ, thank you very much. Really appreciate that. We've been doing, or I've personally been doing these NASCAR shows for, I think going back to 2018. And I wouldn't have kept it going if I wouldn't have seen all the support or received all the support, all the people tuning in to these NASCAR shows every Sunday. It's been a wild ride. It even got me a trip to Daytona, being able to do these YouTube shows. I was able to be found doing that. So it's been absolutely incredible. And adding Dane to the show has just been awesome. He puts a lot of different thoughts in my head that maybe I haven't thought about. So getting viewpoints from 2 different people is awesome. And you guys providing your feedback and your questions in chat really puts new perspectives as well. It makes us think about things that we maybe both of us missed. So with our new Slack, or not our new Slack chat, our new Patreon, the way things are going, we're really, really, really pushing the community aspect because we're not hoisting ourselves up on a podium, saying that you guys need to listen to us. We want to build a community. We all want to learn together. No way are we experts. I'm learning new things about sports that I've been covering for 6 years. Every single day, I'm trying to learn something new. And you guys definitely help out with everyone's different perspectives. So thank you very much. Let's go get some green screens. Good luck out there, everyone.
Good luck.